After being destroyed by a fire, the Hintonburg Pumping Station is now open to the public for the first time in over 35 years.
Well, the story begins back in the late 1800s. Hintonburg as a village had separated from Nepean Township, so it was its own little self-functioning little community, and as part of it, this was primitive times. Like, there was a lot of houses. It was a growing community. The streetcar had arrived. People were moving in, building houses, but there was no services. Like, at the time, there was minimal electricity. There was no water, no sewer. So the community got together and said, we need to create this. And so a very primitive pumping station was set up on this location, and all in the space of like 6 or 8 months, they installed a whole water distribution system through the village to bring water to each of the homes in Hintonburg. Ultimately, in the old pump house days, you would have had the pumps embedded in the ground somewhere and all the machinery up here in the back. There was still some metal and remnants from the old days that were still here, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But ultimately, this was where the pump house would have been operating from 1899 onwards and into the 1920s. And it was only for those 20-some years, those critical years where this was used, and then it became a residence for the gatekeeper for the people who sort of ran Lemieux Island's purification plant. So this building was residential for another 50 years or so until the people moved out and it was left sitting. It became designated, and it was just 2 years later where, as sitting here, unfortunately, as a vacant building, it was torched, and there was a massive fire on a summer night in 1989, and the building was lost. So unfortunately, a lot of the roof was gone, a lot of the pieces were gone, but they've been able to rebuild a lot of this. So a lot of this had been crumbled down, a lot of the brickwork was fallen. The stones seem to be relatively what they were at the time when over the last 20 years or so. But so they've done an amazing job of restoring the stonework and sort of the other pieces to it. So,
and what a view.
And what a view, right? Like imagine living here, and this is what you see looking out your front window, going out your front door. Like, incredible.
2 years ago, the city approved a conservation plan, and then construction began last summer.
It's something we've been kind of trying to get off the ground for some time to figure out what to do with it. Whether the city, because it was damaged beyond sort of like reasonable full repair. And so in the last few years, that idea kind of gained some traction, and we have what we have today. One of the interesting things that we can see about it now as a ruin is the way in which it's constructed, which typically when you go inside a historic building, you can't tell that because there's drywall and, if it's being used. Here you get to actually see the width of the stones, the thickness of the masonry, the way the arches have been reconstructed. You can see that the end of the roof line has been reconstructed to sort of give a sense of what the building did look like. But I also think it's about the setting and that connection to the river. The story of the Ottawa River and the importance of it sort of through Ottawa's history, not just in recent history, but also the sort of water infrastructure story that we tell going all the way from LeBreton Flats to here.
And access to this historic site, which is just off the Kichizibi-Mikan Parkway, will be open to the public all year long. Sannah, Choi, CBC News, Ottawa.